I'll just welcome everybody. Thank you very much. We'll do all the introductions and everything around the group in the meeting that follows, etc. But so as not to waste any time. Thank you very much to the 8 firms that completed the Maturity Index. Hopefully the other 4 will be motivated to do it after today. Very much looking forward to the presentation from Sam and the discussion that follows. So Sam, over to you.
Cool, thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Happy Pancake Day. I have got a brief presentation for you guys where we just talk about the research that we did, and then I can show you the kind of scores that everybody else got versus the scores that you got, and you'll obviously be able to see your individual scores and reports if you did the assessment, but I can compare them to kind of averages for Law South, and we can talk about a few of the areas where there are potentially some kind of quick wins for you guys as well. I have my colleague Lisa Edwards with me today as well, so I think some of you probably know her too. So I will dive straight in. Let me just present my screen, my other screen. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to do this really quickly because I'm presuming everybody's done the survey, but I just wanted to give you a sense of how the scoring works in case anybody was wondering. These are the different areas that we surveyed. So we looked at the different steps all the way from new business to post-completion, but then we also looked at what are some of the underlying technologies throughout the process which help digitize conveyancing, and then we also looked at a firm's ability to create a digital audit trail, which is obviously good from your perspective in terms of having access to that information, but also can help for risk compliance management too. This is the way that the questions work. So some of you will be familiar because you would have filled it in, but basically across the whole conveyancing process, we looked at all of the technology that was available to a firm. So not just InfoTrack technology, but everything. And there were a number of sections. I'll be honest, in a lot of the cases, the most advanced digital option was InfoTrack software, but not always. So we included it, all of the options in there to make sure it was kind of fair and impartial. Every time we ask the question, there is a kind of least digital to most digital option. So you score more points the more digital you are, so it's not a kind of scoring of how good at conveyancing you are, it's just how many digital tools and processes you've adopted. So if you adopted the most digital version of option of every single option out there, you score 100%. And obviously nobody actually scored 100%, although a few people did come quite close. The average score was actually 43%, so relatively low. So this is across the whole industry, and now over 300, nearly 350 firms have actually taken the survey. So it's not a particularly high score. I'll talk about that in a little bit. These are some of the highs that we see in there. One of the things that you might be interested in is actually most of the firms that are in the top 10%, so around about the sort of top 30 odd firms, tend to be small and medium-sized firms, often just with one office. A few more based in the north than anywhere else, but it's not the big conveyancing houses or firms kind of dominating this at all. And everybody knows they've probably got more to spend on IT, but actually it's probably more about the kind of agility and ease of adoption for a smaller firm than it is for any large ones. So we saw loads of people doing digital ID checks. So actually the kind of 2 areas where digital maturity was kind of at its highest was onboarding and post-completion. And I don't think it's a coincidence that both of those probably being more driven by external factors, whether that's HMLR mandates or the pandemic. But digital ID checks fairly high. Still a third of firms not doing them. The other thing I would say is we promoted this really broadly. About 2/3 of the firms that completed the survey were InfoTrack clients and 1/3 weren't. So it probably skews slightly more digital in all honesty than the industry as a whole, because most InfoTrack clients are already sort of on that journey. But this is a good kind of good state of the nation for, you know, the slightly more digitally orientated firms. We see lots of people pre-populating data from their case management systems into third-party platforms, which is something we recommend. And those integrations don't just save time, but they make sure that you have more complete data. There's less likely to be errors in that. We see high use of e-signatures, although still 20% of firms not using e-signatures, which I wouldn't like to have been doing that throughout the pandemic. I have to deal with a law firm in my personal life that doesn't accept them, sadly not by choice. I lost half a day of my weekend to travelling somewhere to sign something. And the average score on post completion very high as well. A few of the kind of lows here. So digital contract packs. So basically the ability to just gather all of that information together digitally, automatically, attach all the documents you need, send that over in a digital format to the other side. Relatively, it's quite new, so but still really low adoption there. The pre-completion chunk of conveyancing, which is obviously the biggest bit, is the lowest scoring part in terms of all of the whole digital survey. Whilst we saw good adoption of e-signatures, we don't see that flowing all the way through to kind of mortgage deeds and HMLR deeds. They were lower numbers, but I think obviously they will have grown significantly. One number which is interesting is the 37% of firms using a digital solution for reporting on title. We'll sort of come back to that again for this group. It's a kind of low number, but it's also, I think it's really impressive about how quickly people have moved and adopted that type of technology, especially because it's a kind of core part of the conveyancing process, and it can be quite a personal thing about how you report on title. So the fact that quite so many people have adopted technology which automates some or all of that process and kind of pulls in data from other sources like HMLR and your search data and all that kind of stuff is quite interesting. And we saw relatively low adoption of advanced analytics around onboarding, specifically for source of funds. So I think quite a lot of people are starting to use open banking to get kind of verified bank statements. But in terms of applying any analysis to that on top of that, adoption of that is relatively low, and that's just another thing which can kind of help in terms of time saving and fraud prevention as well. So these were the industry scores across the whole survey. So we saw a highest score of 94%, that's a weighted score, and a lowest of 4 out of 108. And you can see that there were a number of firms who didn't score anything in some of these areas. Nobody didn't score anything in the CMS and digital audit area, fortunately. A lot of the high scores were maxed out. So somebody out there is using the most digital version of everything, other than pre-completion, where nobody has adopted all of the digital tools that they could do. But we see, onboarding, post-completion relatively higher, the CMS integration of CMS relatively high, post-completion, so pre-completion and new boarding relatively low. Generally, what we saw in this is actually there's a kind of tranche of law firms that all score very highly, that very digital. There's a much thinner layer at the bottom that really are not on the journey at all, and then most people are in that kind of like average, lowish average score area that's kind of brings the overall average down. This is how Law South as a group did. So we had 8 reports to compare. So you can actually see post-completion is the only area where we've got the absolute maximum score. There are a number of lower scores. Your average is higher than the average of the industry, though quite significantly so. So 10 points higher there. So generally pretty good scores for onboarding again, post-completion again. The pre-completion score I think is better than the average. I can just actually on the next click kind of compare the two. So yeah, you can see there the comparison of the Law South cohort versus the industry as a whole. So post-completion definitely up. Pre-completion is interestingly, so no one with a higher score than the high score in that area, but the average is higher. The average is higher in onboarding and CMS. So other than the new business bit, which in the overall weighting and the overall score, we actually lower the weighting of new business. We actually award kind of higher scores to pre-completion and post-completion. But yeah, as a group, as a collective, you score higher than average by a decent amount, actually. So here's just a few of the things that we saw from this. So 7 out of 8 firms are using digital ID checks. So one of the firms that completed it didn't. Obviously, there's formal firms that we don't know. I think some people might be filling it in today. Only 50% are using an app for Safe Harbor. So you've got a digital ID check, but you haven't got the option of using a mobile app. And there's a bit of it's a bit of a faff to get a Safe Harbor ID check. But if you don't have access to an app, in order to do those mobile ID checks, you won't be able to get a Safe Harbor compliant check. We saw a good number of firms using integrating their CMS with some services, but not really maxing that out. So there's kind of areas there where actually more opportunities to integrate other service providers with your CMS to make those processes smoother and less likely and less errorsome. We saw quite a high number of firms using dashboards to manage AP1 requisitions, and I'll come on to this because there's a lot of people using that, but then using dashboards, but then actually their requisition management seems to be lower. So you've got the ability to use it, but then actually in the reporting it says that not so many of you have the dashboards, but you're not actually using them for requisition management. And the adoption of e-signatures was high, with most people using them for onboarding as well. So signing all of the forms there again, which is obviously particularly onboarding, speeds things up. What we obviously euphemistically call opportunities. So 50% of the firms in your group sending onboarding questionnaires and TA forms as editable PDFs or as static PDFs. So actually sending stuff by email rather than actually doing digital forms, which gets that data into a digital platform, into a system, so it can then be reused or kind of passed throughout, or even populated back to your CMS. So you're just getting those kind of static documents back. We saw only one firm using a client portal to manage communications with their clients. This is not something that everybody enjoys, but it is a more digital way of doing things. So most people are still just using phone and email. Fortunately, we didn't find anybody using post, or no one admitted to it anyway. We did see, in terms of managing property inquiries, everybody was basically still doing that by email. So there are platforms out there that you can use, and we have the functionality in our platform to manage inquiries within a platform with the other side. So you get that kind of easier record of the inquiries and whether they've been answered and who asked what and when. But most people are still doing that by email, which is obviously a bit more cumbersome, but that's most people's kind of comfort zone across the board. We saw quite high usage of templates for reporting on title, but not many people actually using automated software. I think only 2 firms are using kind of digital software to build reports on title. So we can sort of come back to that a little bit. And then 85% of people manually managing key dates and deadlines rather than in kind of spreadsheets and that kind of thing, or Google Drives, rather than using digital dashboards to keep track of all of those dates and deadlines and have alerts and reminders, that kind of thing. There are a few things in the chat I haven't checked yet, but by all means chuck questions in. I'll just probably cover off some of these things that, and then we can sort of just throw it open and do questions and have a discussion. And obviously Lisa's here, she can talk in a bit more detail about some of these things. The things that we probably identified as a quick win that perhaps you're not maximizing, and I know that probably about 75% of Law South members are InfoTrack clients as well, which means that you have access to all of these things, and a lot of it doesn't cost anything. They're just not necessarily things that are being used yet, and appreciate everybody's at different kind of stages on their journey. I mentioned in terms of integrations with service providers and other providers with your CMS, everybody's doing it a bit, but not everybody's kind of maxing it out. So that might be one area that we could talk about to get kind of more out of those systems talking to each other. We prioritize CMS integrations, or we scored it highly, just because we know how much quicker that can make everything, and how much less transferring of data and manual rekeying of data that solves. One quick win that we see is LMS integrations, so the lender panels, and Lisa can talk a bit more about that in a second, which is that's generally something that when people see how that works, they run away from their manual processes as quickly as possible. Contract of sale is a relatively new product, but it has been out in the world for a while, and so again, that's just that, you know, the step after onboarding, when you're at that point, so creating a digital contract pack. So what we can do is kind of attach all of the documents that you want to send, complete a standard conditions of sale form for you, a law society form for you, attach all of those documents, whether they're TA forms from onboarding or the ones that you might fill in later, EPCs, all of those things kind of automatically gathered together and then fired off over to the other side. So again, it's a real time saver. It doesn't cost anything to do as well. It's a free thing. Reporting on title, like I said, it's an area where I think certainly a couple of firms are using the kind of most advanced stuff. Property report that we offer is a way of kind of automating that process and just gathering data in order to create that from external sources. So it might be your searches, the searches you do with us or somebody else, or it's HMLR data, and just pulling that all in automatically, allowing you to kind of build that report, edit it before you send it. And then this last point is just around requisition management for AP1s. So lots of people are submitting digital AP1s now, but there is the functionality with the dashboard that we have, for example, to actually just interact with your caseworkers online. You've got kind of like WhatsApp style messaging. There's also things like suggested responses to regularly raised requisitions that just make that easier to do, as well as all the kind of validation so that you can check that the data you're submitting is right. So I think, yeah, so obviously everybody, you got your free personalized report if you submitted this, so that's something that you can go through, or you can go through with kind of your account manager and just maybe look at some of those different areas where perhaps you didn't know that there's more functionality that you could have. But these are probably the things ranging from the very sort of simple to have perhaps with reporting on title being a bit more advanced, that we would, I think, call out as being options. I'm just going to check the chat. No, okay, so there's no questions in there. Now really it's that's our kind of initial throwing out there of some of the results that we saw. If anybody has any questions or wants to kind of dive into any areas, obviously it can be a discussion between you guys and you can share your experiences, or we can ask questions, and like I said, Lisa can provide a bit more insight into some of the tools that are available to you as well, if that's helpful.
Thank you very much, Sam. Yes, please, if you've got any observations, comments or questions that around the results, either in general or as you relate to your own experience, please just come off mute and ask.
Are there any of these things that anybody wants us to explain a bit more? I could ask Lisa to do that if you like.
If you think there's an aspect that that could do with developing, then please, Lisa, please do expand upon it.
Lisa, why don't you maybe start with the LMS integration, because that's the one that I know that.
Yeah. Can you just, if you'd like to stop sharing your screen, Sam, I can then share the screen from here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Afternoon, everyone. So I'm just going to go through a few of the quick win opportunities on there. And I do appreciate that the majority on here today do use InfoTrack already. So if you are not using what I show you currently, of course, we can remedy that when we finish this presentation to hand you over to your account manager to get you on board with it fully. But starting with what Sam mentioned there, I'll just take a look at our quick LMS integration. So if you are dealing with LMS, this is a time saver in itself, basically. But on the InfoTrack website, you have a full integration with your LMS portal. Now, a lot of queries we get from clients and frustrations really are the number of reminders you get from LMS and also the fine notifications as well, and not being able to keep on top of the updating of their portal and so on and so forth. So we've built that straight into Land Registry. So I'll show you where it lies on the actual system itself. So when you are ordering your priority searches, so whether it's an OS1 or an S2, you will find there that when your priority searches are ordered, you can link this directly to your LMS portal. It will ask you to link it to a case, and it will then basically deliver the documents back to you automatically within InfoTrack, but automatically update your portal for you straight away as well, without any intervention by you or the users. So the reminder emails and the fine emails will basically obliterate overnight. They will disappear. So that is available to you straight away. It's a short registration process to gain access to LMS integration, but once it's done, it takes less than 24 hours. That pain of moving the documents and uploading the documents and logging onto LMS to do that disappears. We also go a step further with mortgage offers as well. This is particularly good if you are integrated with your case management with InfoTrack. We integrate with most case management systems. So if you're not integrated already, we can touch base with that afterwards. But really where mortgage offers really comes into its own is when integration is in full play. Because when mortgage documents are available on case, you can assign to matter straight away. And those documents will drop straight into the case management matter as well. Just a touch point on integration as well. If you are integrated with us with case management system, you never use InfoTrack directly via the web. You will always access InfoTrack directly from your case within case management. And that just means that all documents and all reporting that you actually order from us will drop straight back into case without any intervention by yourself. So no dragging and dropping from the PDF documents that you take delivery of for searches, for LMS documentation and so on. Everything means it's just pre-populated, fully inserted into case. So that's a brief look at LMS. And of course, what we can actually do is arrange for your account manager, or if you are not using InfoTrack at this current time, we can take you through a full demo of this as well. But LMS lives on the dashboard over to the left-hand side and also via Land Registry when working with priority searches. With InfoTrack, as you know, for the people who use us, we are all about talking about single source of truth for data. So if you are using us for onboarding at the minute, once you start onboarding your client, InfoTrack will remember all of the information stored on that client to pre-populate other services along the line. So whether it's searches, whether it's land registry documentation or contract of sale, which Sam touched on there, everything starts with onboarding. So if you onboard your client, all of the information they send you, their seller questionnaire, their purchaser questionnaire, and the TA forms as well, which contain a lot of data, will be saved and used throughout the InfoTrack journey. So when you come to do the contract of sale, it's literally pre-populated. That coupled with integration with your website as well means that you get maximum pre-population. So putting together a full contract of sale, including all TA forms, literally takes seconds with InfoTrack when using our information here. And of course, because it is contract of sale, you do have the ability to search the EPC register as well to pull through the EPC to complete that contract of sale. Once that's created, it's available for you to email out to the other side and get that transaction moving swiftly. So it's all there for you to do. I'm not going to go into much demonstration of the actual products. It's just a top highlight here. So we can obviously do that in more demo mode when we talk to you individually about it afterwards. So you've probably got the gist with ECOS, starting off the whole process, populating your contract of sale, moving on to any of the land registry documents that you want, and of course search documentation as well. And going back to the quick wins, if you're not using us at the moment for this, we do have our property report, which is in effect your report on title. So property report just allows you to do your report on title. Freehold properties, your average freehold residential properties, that can be done within 15 minutes. But basically all of the information you've ordered from InfoTrack previously is all digitized. So that allows us to pre-populate all of this documentation, as we mentioned in the contract of sale. So when we actually come to work with property report as well, it will just basically allow you to choose your tenure for freehold, leasehold and registered. It will look at the matter that you're working with and then tell you which documentation that you've already ordered from InfoTrack. InfoTrack basically just allows us to pre-populate your report on title with the searches that you've ordered from us and so on. And when you actually order the report itself, it will just allow you to add your own text if you want to. You can actually digitize your own template from here, but it will just allow you to compile your report and title within 15 minutes. So if I just basically do this for you, just bear with me. And click on order. It's just taking some time to actually load. This is what the report on title looks like. And you will see from here that the report itself will have a front cover, which is actually white labeled to your company's logos and so forth, and color schemes. You will see that as I start to work through the report on title, our library of text just gives you lots of user-friendly data for your client to read through your report. So we pre-populate that for you. And you will see over to the left-hand side, these are the sections that are contained within your property report. So if I look at the executive summary, for example, I can see over to the right-hand side, it's showing me what's over there. So if there's any additions that you need to make, you can do from here. The little yellow triangles over to the left-hand side as well will just tell you what needs to be addressing before you actually publish the report. So this is just basically telling me that this is indicating that the seller is someone other than the proprietor. So in this case, maybe a probate case. So you will see that as I actually enter in my text, click on save, over to the right-hand side, in real time, the report will be actually done for me. And the register will always be included in our report on title, free of charge as well, because you've used us for searches and everything else that's digitized. We just basically incorporate the registers and the title, should there be one or up to three titles on this particular property. So you will find that this is a dynamic report as well. So if it's a right to buy, for example, because you are doing your SDLT through us, we know that that is the right to buy. So the report will curtail automatically, dynamically to feature for that particular property as well. So you can learn to trust this. So when you are building your report, basically, as I've mentioned, you can work in sections, you can report incrementally or in full, whichever way you prefer, but you can work on sections to your leisure. So if I look at the searches, for example, if you've ordered your searches through us, it will pull through the data straight away from the search results, and it will just basically highlight what needs your attention. So if there's permitted development rights in there, it will just give you the information to take a look at that and think, yep, I'm happy with that wording. Or if you want to add your own wording in here, you can do and save particularly for your client and so on. So it will actually allow you to quickly put together your report on title. Reporting on searching takes probably around about 5 minutes to do from the searches that we've already got. And you can see here that we pull data in from the actual search results themselves as well. So if you are wondering at any one point how this report has been compiled, you have what I call a little magic eye over to the right-hand side, which will allow you to go over to the search that you ordered from InfoTrack, which will take you to the section within that particular document, which gives the planning entries. And you will see that the information has been digitized to populate this section itself. So over here, you have your appendices. You can switch to your preview whenever you wish. And of course, because we are a flexible report on title, you can upload any documentation that you see fit as well. So before you publish this report, and you may want to include the contract of sale, for example, that you compiled earlier, or your terms and conditions, or any documentation can instantly be uploaded over to the right-hand side to add to the report here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually report incrementally. So if I just wanted to report on the searches, I just simply untick the boxes from the other previous sections, and I can run the report on just searches only. So over to the right-hand side, bottom right there, I have publish, and that will publish automatically a PDF for me. So it will look at what it's going to attach. If you don't want to include them, you can just take them off for now. And it will also show you what you've not acknowledged before you publish. But because I'm doing this as a demonstration, I'm just going to publish as it is. So the beauty about the report on title is that you can do everything that you need for freehold, leasehold, new bills, anything you want. You can do this all in one space without having to cut and paste. We read the information that's digitized from the searches themselves and what's contained within your case management, and pull that information through for you to get your property report, in this case, in less than 15 minutes. Now that will go back into case management as a PDF file. And of course, because you're using InfoTrack, it will drop into InfoTrack directly as well. But you will always have the ability to go back and edit as many times as you wish. You can actually send this off to your client for signatures if you want from here, or do it directly from case management. So just finishing off on the quick wins. Any questions on property report before we move on? Silence is golden. Probably all wanting your lunch, so just bear with me while I've got one more thing to show you. And that's with the AP1. So where we looked at the quick wins slide that Sam demonstrated earlier, the requisition management side of things. So of course, AP1s through InfoTrack have been fully digitized for 7 years now. So it meets all the requirements of the HMLR as standard. So you will see here that, again, this is the form that you need to fill in to submit your AP1. Again, will be 98% pre-populated when using us for searches and for other documentation that you order through us. Once you submit your AP1 through to Land Registry directly from InfoTrack, what comes into play is your AP1 dashboard. Now, the AP1 dashboard is firm-wide level, so all users will have access to this. And this is just a very easy, quick way of managing requisitions and keeping on top with what's going on. Now, because it's firm-wide, it means that if your users, if one's away, one on holiday, job share, and so on and so forth, this little token is standard across the firm. So this is telling me that I've got one thing that I need to acknowledge regarding one of the AP1s that I've submitted. So if I pop over to AP1 dashboard, you can see there that that will give you a record of all AP1s that are within your system. It will give you a status as to where they are, completed, in progress, and so on. But if there's a requisition outstanding, you or any users can go straight to that requisition and work from here to liaise direct with the Land Registry. So you don't have to pick up the phone and go on a queue to speak to the Land Registry operator that actually raises this requisition for you. Just bear with me while this requisition launches. It's typical, isn't it? On a demonstration, the requisition doesn't load. But basically, let me show you something else. So let me take a look at this one. Okay. I'm sorry, I can't show you the requisition outstanding on here. So there must be, the devs must be working on it. But basically what this would give you is a recorded history of what the requisition is without having to rely on the email that will come through. And it will give you the ability to answer requisitions directly from here as well. And that requisition response goes directly to the land registry operator, not anywhere in the land registry inbox. It will go directly to the operator that raised that requisition. So it's going back to the person who can acknowledge that. As well as answering the requisition as well, you can request an action. So for example, if you want an extension on the due date, extend the date, you can do this. But that requisition management is there for you to take full use off. So there's no chance of missing any deadlines when it comes to land AP1 management as well. So this dashboard is a must. So if you are not aware of it or not using it currently in-house, and again, if you are new to InfoTrack, we can go into a bit more depth about these quick wins for you. Do get in touch with myself or Sam, and we will make sure that the account manager gets in touch with you straight away. But that's a whistle-top show of what we see as quick wins from your Digital Maturity Index. Back to you, Sam.
Yeah, I think those the sort of main ones that jumped out, looking at what people were and weren't doing. And in sort of full transparency, AP1s is the only one where there's a fee attached to it for using the our services. Everything else that we just showed there are freely available. Report title only if you're using InfoTrack searches. You can pay for it if you're not using InfoTrack searches. But yeah, wanted to.
Lovely. Any comments or questions from the floor?
Hopefully that was okay, guys. I know it was a rush through, and I did stop for breath where I could do, but hopefully everything sank in.
Can I just ask a quick question, please, in relation to the AP1? So, you know, there's a facility where you can, it's been so long, request an update as to when processing is going to start, something like that. Did the land registry definitely get those through InfoTrack?
Yes.
I don't ever get responses from them.
Right. I will look through for you, but they definitely do. So I will check on your account for you, Vicky, and find that out for you.
Thank you.
Any others? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
If there are no more, if you think of something immediately after the call or whatever, then obviously we'll process the recording, we'll get the slide deck, we'll pass it out to you with contact details so that you can follow up as required. And so thank you very much, Sam, for the presentation on the results.
I just had a quick question.
Sorry, Kelly.
That's all right. So obviously I understand about the LMS integration. Is there likely to be the same with Lender Exchange as well?
Hopefully, we are talking with the Lender Exchange. So we are all ready to go type of thing. So it's from a development side their end as well. So we'll keep you updated through any future process with that, Kelly. But it's always a question that people ask, and we are working on it. So we will get there hopefully one day.
Knocking on the door. Yeah, we need them to do their bit, but that's the plan.
Okay, smashing.
Thank you.
If no further questions, thank you very much, Sam, for the presentation on the results of the survey. It was very interesting. I'm sure we'll perhaps reflect and ruminate on that a bit and what it means. And thank you very much, Lisa, for explaining those quick wins and having a quick look at the product and everything. So it's just gone 22, so we're starting again on the hour. So please get yourself a coffee or some lunch or something. And apologies, the Zoom link for the meeting was only added this morning, so you'll need to just check on your in tray for the invite for the meeting starting at 1. See everybody else on there soon. Thanks very much, Sam. Thanks.